I chased Julian for 7 years, and I grew tired of his cold indifference. Then I turned to Marcus, the East Coast elite scion who had protected me for years. But when I excitedly brought him my pregnancy test results, I overheard him tell his close friends, while holding another woman, marrying her is out of the question, but I can still support her even after I'm married. So, on the day of his engagement announcement event, I terminated the pregnancy and had the embryo delivered to the event. Later, Marcus, the East Coast elite scion, searched all over the country but couldn't find the one that got away. The day I found out I was pregnant, I excitedly held the pregnancy test results, planning to tell Marcus the good news. But as I stood by the private lounge door, about to open it and step inside, I heard Marcus speak. I only pursued Grace in the first place because of a bet with Julian. My hand, gripping the doorknob, froze. I heard someone laugh and ask, Marcus, you've won the bet, so when are you going to break up? Marcus, with a woman whose red lips glistened, wrapped in his arms, sneered maliciously. That woman never took me seriously because of Julian. Now, I can't let her off so easily. First, I'll get her pregnant, then I'll dump her publicly. She might be a siren, but she's traditional at heart. Once she's pregnant, she'll have no choice but to stick with me. That's Marcus for you, really knows how to play the game. Everyone burst into laughter, echoing the sentiment. Marcus continued carelessly, she stood in the rain for 6 hours waiting for Julian back then, so naturally, she should do even more for me. At the very least, I'll make her pregnant and have her beg me, crying in front of everyone, not to leave her. Otherwise, how could I justify all the time and effort I've spent on her over the years? The woman with the red lips, leaning against Marcus, showed a hint of jealousy, lightly tapping his chest. It sounds like you're genuinely falling for her, Marcus. Are you actually going to marry her? Marcus pushed the woman away, picked up an unlit cigarette, and just as he was about to light it, he seemed to recall something and stopped, simply holding the unlit cigarette in his mouth. Just an actress. Is she worthy? I'm just keeping her around for fun. From his voice, I heard nothing but disdain and contempt. There wasn't a trace of genuine emotion. I clutched the pregnancy test results tightly in my hand, my teeth gritted, my facial muscles slightly aching from the strain. But what hurt even more was my heart. I clutched my chest, rage and nausea threatening to erupt from my throat. I dry-heaved silently, tears streaming from my eyes, blurring my vision. Back then, I had given up on pursuing Julian. But I never considered Marcus a second-best alternative. I had even worried that I was too heartbroken after leaving Julian, relying on Marcus for emotional support, which is why I initially resisted. Yet later, during a plane crash, he tightly held my hand and told me not to be afraid. I suddenly realized that if that truly were the last second of my life, I wanted to die with him. A few days after returning to the East Coast metropolis, he bought all the roses in the city and kissed my lips amidst a drone show proposal filling the sky. I thought I had finally found my true love. I thought I was worthy of love too. Until today, when I found out I was pregnant and was still fantasizing about a happy life for the three of us. But I never imagined that all of this was just a bet between him and his friends. A 7-year deception. When love turned into lies and malice, 10 years of memories shattered into fragments, each piece piercing my heart. Years ago, I was new to the industry, unknown, exploited by my agent, and harassed at a gala. Julian simply stepped in to block a drink for me, and I fell hopelessly in love with him. I pursued him until everyone online knew about it. No matter how much I was slandered or bullied, I didn't care. For love, I could charge forward relentlessly. Later, Julian left me on a remote island in Malaysia, abandoning me to fend for myself. I completely gave up hope and decided to let go. After a week of extreme survival on the remote island, I thought I wouldn't make it, but Marcus saved me. The waves on the sea were immense that day. Our boat sliced through one powerful wave after another, and we had no idea when it might capsize in that deserted stretch of ocean. Marcus held me tight. Grace, no matter how big the waves get, I'll protect you and make sure you survive. Just look forward, I'll always be behind you. He had put on a long performance, and his acting was astonishing. And I had believed in his profound affection, meticulously planning our future, even anticipating the arrival of our child. Yet with just a few words, he shattered those illusions, forcing me to face reality. My heart was sliced open, bleeding profusely. The lively, joyful sounds from the private room continued. Then Marcus, you really need to charm her these days. At the very least, make sure she gets pregnant before you say anything. I still held on to a sliver of hope. But Marcus laughed and chimed in, yeah, my engagement announcement event with Evelyn Thorne is in another month. Make sure you all keep this a secret for me. Amidst the chorus of agreement, I forcefully tore up the pregnancy test results. Marcus, are you really going to trample on my feelings like this? Since you've decided to play with me like a toy, don't blame me when I thoroughly embarrass you on the day of your engagement. 2. I decided to act as if nothing had happened today. I returned to the small home Marcus and I shared. I meticulously packed up all of Marcus's belongings and sent them back to him. After doing all this, I felt as if I had undergone major surgery, my entire body aching as if my bones had been removed. I collapsed weakly onto the sofa. My body felt so utterly exhausted. I was almost out of my mind, yet my mind was acutely clear. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was an unknown account that had tagged me on Instagram. I instinctively opened my phone and found that the person had tagged me in a post they had written. The title was, "Went on a blind date with a Jew, my love of 10 years." The girl described how she had secretly loved someone for 10 years, silently waiting from their school days to their professional lives, until their families arranged a marriage, and her dream man wanted to propose to her. The location was set in the East Coast metropolis. I scrolled through the photos. The last one showed her fingers intertwined with a man's hand. On the man's middle finger was a wave-patterned ring tattoo. I had spent a week meticulously designing it and personally tattooed it on Marcus. The wave pattern formed our initials in English, JMYHSJ. Unique in the world. I called Marcus several times, but he didn't answer. Just as I was about to give up, exhausted, my phone rang. It wasn't Marcus, but Julian. "Grace, I saw you at the club." I frowned, too tired to argue with him. Just as I was about to hang up, Julian coldly questioned me. "Grace, you left me and ended up with a scumbag like Marcus. Do you regret it?" I yelled back impatiently, "He's a scumbag, and what kind of saint are you? Stop bothering me, or I'll call the police." Julian sighed, advising me in a low voice, "Marcus is just playing with you. Do you really think you can marry him? The Hawthorne family would never allow an actress into their home." Actress, always an actress. I felt a visceral revulsion towards their condescending attitude. I impatiently cut him off. "Are you calling me at 3 in the morning just to mock me?" He paused, then suddenly said, "Grace, I can marry you. Come back to me." It felt as if the heating in the room was broken. I only felt cold and lightheaded. "Don't dream of it." I blocked the number. This was just one of countless times I had blocked Julian's another number over the years. Not long after, another unknown number sent a video. Spectacular fireworks lit up the sea, illuminating the night sky. In the flickering light, Marcus and a girl in an evening gown were embracing and kissing on a cruise ship under the dazzling fireworks. The unknown number messaged, "The fireworks in East Harbor went off all night. Marcus spent over 70 million. This gesture is far grander than your roses." It was mockery, and an insinuation. A new Instagram message popped up on my phone. The girl had updated with a photo of fireworks by the sea. Caption, "Fireworks lit for me all night long." The comments below were all congratulating her on her 10-year love story reaching its happy conclusion. A wave of nausea surged over me. I fell to my knees, dry heaving into the trash can. But after dry heaving for a long time, I only brought up a little bitter fluid. Then I remembered, I had already purged everything I could after leaving the club. My throat burned. I slumped weakly onto the sofa and closed my eyes. Suddenly, I remembered the night we got together. He had sworn an oath to all the gods above. "Grace, I will never betray you in this life." However, a lie is still just a lie. I don't know how much time passed before I vaguely felt a hot body approach, a calloused hand slipping under my clothes. He reeked of smoke and alcohol, his voice hoarse. "Baby, why are you sleeping here? Were you waiting for me?" I jolted awake, yanked my hand away, and slapped him hard. "Don't touch me." Marcus was startled by the disgust in my eyes. His expression turned sour, and there was suppressed anger in his eyes. "Grace, you hit me?" I fought back the nausea, avoiding his questioning gaze. "I just had a nightmare." He finally smiled, leaning in to kiss my moist eyelids. "I know you're timid and can't be without me. I swear, I'll be with you always." "Liar." I stared at Marcus's almost perfect face, the tenderness in his eyes didn't seemed feigned. How could someone act so convincingly? Planning an engagement with someone else on one hand, and acting as if nothing happened with me on the other. So gentle, yet so cruel. My tears fell uncontrollably. Seeing my tears, Marcus suddenly became a bit impatient. "I've already apologized. What more do you want?" He was, after all, not as patient with me as he used to be. I took a deep breath and said to him in a hoarse voice, "I feel a bit feverish. Could you go downstairs and get me some medicine?" Marcus was about to refuse, but his phone rang just then. He glanced at his phone, then suddenly swallowed his refusal and obediently went downstairs. Marcus thought he was putting on a good act, but I quietly followed him downstairs. I followed him to the park downstairs, where a girl suddenly rushed into his arms and hugged him. "Honey!" she called out to him joyfully, rising on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek. Marcus didn't refuse, listening with a smile on his face as the girl chattered on and on. "I haven't seen you for a few hours, and I missed you so much. I didn't sleep after coming home late last night. I spent 3 hours making you chicken soup. You have a sensitive stomach, so you absolutely must eat breakfast. Why aren't you saying anything? Look how hard I worked, and you won't even kiss me." I hid like a third wheel in the shadows of the bushes, watching my boyfriend lean down to kiss another girl. I wanted to rush out and tell that girl that Marcus was mine. We were already together, she was the other woman. But the second before I could, I heard the girl say, "How could Grace be so thoughtless, letting you stay in such a rundown place? It's so unsafe." My blood ran cold. So, she knew everything. Suddenly, a pair of hands reached out from behind me, steadying me as I nearly fell. I whirled around, meeting Julian's half-smile, half-sneer. I pushed him away forcefully, struggling to control my surging emotions as I questioned him. "What are you doing here?" Julian cast a cold glance in Marcus's and the girl's direction, then scoffed, asking me mockingly, "Grace, is this the opponent you chose for me?" I looked down at him coldly, cutting off his continued mockery. "Don't flatter yourself so much." Julian looked at my displeased expression and forcefully changed the subject. "Why did you leave me back then?" I was somewhat baffled and countered, "Julian, when were we ever together?" Julian's eyes darkened menacingly at that instant, and he glared at me almost viciously. "Grace, not only are you refusing to face the pain Marcus inflicted on you, but are you also denying our past now?" He took a step forward, stubbornly clutching my arm with such force that I winced in pain. I forcefully pulled my hand away from his. "Julian, there is no past between us." Julian's anger reached its peak. He violently pressed me against the tree trunk, his dark pupils tinged with a reddish hue. We were so close I could even feel his ragged, moist breath on my face. "You say we have no past?" Julian gritted his teeth, looking as if he wanted to bite me to death. "We've been entangled for so many years, and now you're telling me we have no past?" I looked at Julian's furious expression and calmly countered, "You never liked me in the first place, so why pretend to be abandoned? I owe you nothing, Julian. I chased him for 10 years, and he simply hated me. Since he hated it, I simply stopped. But why was he clinging to me again? Ultimately, it was just his male pride acting up." Julian's breathing grew heavier. If this continued, I didn't know what he might do to me, so I forcefully pushed him away and tried to leave. Julian, however, quickly stepped forward and embraced me from behind. He pressed tightly against my back, his tall, broad body slightly bent, a posture of subtle pleading. "Grace, Marcus is like this, and you still want to be with him? Can you really tolerate this kind of humiliation?" My body trembled slightly. I still coldly reminded him, "This is my business, and it has nothing to do with you." He forcibly turned my body to face him, his bloodshot eyes staring directly into mine. "If Marcus can, why can't I? At least my reputation is clean." I pried Julian's fingers, one by one, from my shoulders. "I truly don't want any more connection with you, Julian. I'm serious." Before turning to leave, I said to him, "Don't ever appear before me again." Julian, in disbelief, warned me, "Marcus is getting engaged on the 7th of next month. Are you willing to be his secret mistress just for him?" "Of course not." My hand slowly moved to caress my lower abdomen. "So, I would make Marcus regret this. But before that, I just needed to endure a little longer, Grace." I went home and lay back down on the sofa. The girl's social media status updated again. It was a photo of a light blue thermos, bringing homemade soup to my beloved. Marcus returned almost immediately, carrying the exact same thermos as in the picture. I immediately turned off my phone. He came to the sofa, took the phone from my hand, and chastised me. "Aren't you feeling unwell? Why are you still on your phone? When will you learn to take better care of yourself?" Marcus's voice was undeniably gentle, yet I detected a hint of impatient complaint in his tone. Was it because of another woman's tenderness and thoughtfulness that he now found me insufficient? But Marcus had forgotten that when we first got together, he used to hug me and say plaintively, "Baby, could you lean on me a little more? You're too strong and sensible. It always makes me feel like you don't love me." Back then, he worried that I didn't love him enough. Now, he's the one complaining that I'm not sensible enough. I silently watched Marcus, tears unconsciously trailing down my cheeks. Seeing my tears, he instantly looked flustered. Marcus reached out, brushed away the tears from the corner of my eyes, and sighed, comforting me in a low voice. Do and cry anymore. Since you know you were wrong, I won't scold you. After wiping away my tears, he turned and opened the thermos he had brought. As if nothing had happened, he scooped a spoonful of chicken soup from the thermos and brought it to my lips. I specifically had the housekeeper prepare the soup and send it over. Have a bite. If your stomach is empty, taking medicine will upset it. I looked at Marcus's gentle, handsome face and suddenly wanted to ask him, aren't you tired of always acting like this? But just as the words were about to leave my lips and I opened my mouth, Marcus spooned the chicken soup into my mouth. The chicken soup was delicious, but as soon as I thought about where it came from, my stomach uncontrollably churned. Ugh, in the end, I couldn't hold it in and leaned over, vomiting on Marcus. I took the medicine, changed into pajamas, and lay in bed, hearing the rush of water from the bathroom. Marcus's phone, placed on the table, kept lighting up and going dark. The incessant pinging of messages was irritating. In just 10 minutes, Marcus emerged wrapped only in a bath towel, his hair still wet. Water droplets streamed over his bare muscles, flowing down into the contours hidden beneath the towel. His intentions were quite clear. Yet, before he came closer, I calmly spoke, your phone keeps ringing. Is there something important? Marcus immediately picked up his phone and glanced at it, then looked at me with a slightly awkward expression. It wasn't until he confirmed I hadn't touched his phone that he visibly relaxed, explaining with a smile, it's work stuff. I'll call them back. As he spoke, he leaned down, trying to leave a kiss on the corner of my mouth, but I instinctively turned my head away. The kiss landed on my ear, but Marcus didn't seem to notice anything amiss and hurried away with his phone. I watched his anxious demeanor and let out a sarcastic laugh. He talked on the phone for a long time. When I got up to pour water, I saw him leaning against the sofa, his back to me, speaking to the person on the other end with such tender affection that he didn't even react when I stood behind him. It wasn't until he hung up and another call came in that Marcus's mood reverted to agitation. He suddenly stood upright, demanding in a cold voice from the person on the other end, what did you say? The moment Marcus abruptly turned around, his dark eyes, filled with anger and anxiety, met mine. The instant he saw me, a flicker of surprise and panic appeared in Marcus's eyes. I held my water glass, smiling slightly as I watched him. What's wrong? Is something happening at the company? Marcus immediately reacted and hung up the phone. Nothing. He then quickly walked towards me. You're sick, why aren't you resting? If you wanted water, you just had to call me. As he spoke, without waiting for my reply, he picked me up in his arms and strode back to the bedroom. I lay back down on the bed, looking up at Marcus bustling about, and suddenly took his hand. If you have something to do, just go. Company matters are important. Marcus, however, didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat on the edge of my bed, smiling gently as he looked at me. Company matters are nowhere near as important as you are. Get some more sleep, I'll stay here with you. I didn't say anything more. Feeling powerless and exhausted, I turned over, my back to Marcus, and closed my eyes. After a while, I heard the rustle of clothes being removed. Immediately after, Marcus got into bed, his warm body pulling the covers tight and pressing closely against my back. Marcus's eager kisses fell on my back, slowly moving upward, lingering on my neck. His whispers filled my ear. Grace, Grace, my darling. He was always good at softening me with this blend of humility and deep affection, but now that I knew the whole truth, I only felt sick to my stomach. I turned over, forcefully resisting Marcus's attempt to draw closer, and looked at him in silence, my gaze cold. In the dim room, the lust in his eyes slowly faded, quickly replaced by annoyance. Grace! I couldn't recall Marcus ever calling my name with such gritted teeth. I propped my weary body up in bed, hugging a pillow and leaning against the headboard. I'm tired. I'm not in the mood tonight. Normally, Marcus would never force me, he'd even hold me tightly and apologize for his impulsiveness. But tonight, he approached me agitatedly, his face grim as he questioned me. Is it that you're not in the mood, or that you don't want to be with me anymore? Marcus's sudden confrontational attitude made me frown. Marcus, what do you mean by that? Are you deliberately trying to pick a fight with me? Marcus took a deep breath, trying to calm himself, but his tone remained cold and stiff. I just got a call. You sent all my things to the Grand Residences. For the Grand Residences was Marcus's house in the city center, over 400 square meters, spacious and bright. He stayed there whenever he wasn't at my place. Just as Ms. Thorne said, this wasn't where Marcus belonged, he should return to his own place. Yet at this very moment, Marcus was defiantly craning his neck, questioning me indignantly and with a hint of grievance. Grace, are you leaving me? I looked at him in astonishment, unable to comprehend how this person had the audacity to ask me such a question so righteously. I coolly watched Marcus, wondering if I should just take this opportunity to make everything clear. Anyway, Marcus didn't love me at all. He was only with me out of spite, and there was absolutely no need for me to continue this entanglement with him. Marcus, just as I was about to speak, the person in front of me suddenly embraced me forcefully. Marcus held me so tightly I couldn't breathe. The words died on my lips, and I only heard his choked accusation, Grace, I love you so much, how can you just abandon me? He looked like a victim who had been cruelly discarded. Glaring at me with reddened eyes, indignant and aggrieved. I truly couldn't understand how Marcus had the nerve to say such things without batting an eyelid. He clearly just viewed this relationship as a bet. I forcefully pushed away Marcus, who was holding me tightly, took several deep breaths, and tried to calm myself. Suddenly, I didn't want to say anything at all. But Marcus kept looking at me like that, refusing to give up until he got an answer. I sighed. Didn't you think this place was too small and old? So I thought I'd move in with you. I stared at Marcus, watching the disbelief flash in his eyes, and asked with a smile, what's wrong? You don't want me to? Marcus immediately leaned in, like a happy golden retriever. How could I not? It's what I've dreamed of. I really didn't expect you to agree. Marcus cradled my face, intending to kiss me, but I turned away. Meeting Marcus's somewhat displeased gaze, I murmured, you haven't been back for days, and I've been worried about you, so I haven't slept well. I'm really sleepy. Marcus caressed my face, his expression full of guilt. It's my fault. I've been busy with company matters lately and neglected you. I seemed to have grown accustomed to Marcus's lies, my heart didn't ache as much anymore. I lay down, wrapped in the covers, my back to Marcus. A moment later, Marcus lay down beside me, holding me tightly from behind. He didn't make any further overt moves, simply burying his face deep into the nape of my neck. I moved into Marcus's high-end residence in the city center. The location was good, the environment comfortable, and the property management service was exceptionally attentive. But I didn't move many things over, just a few clothes and cosmetics. I knew I wouldn't be staying there long, I would leave soon, before Marcus's engagement. Marcus, however, didn't notice any of this. He was in a good mood lately, having two women vying for his attention seemed to make any man feel triumphant. Secretly saw Marcus chatting with his buddies in a group chat. Grace moved in with me. Her rundown place was so small and damp, I really couldn't stand staying there for a single day. I'd brought it up a few times before, but she never wanted to move. Luckily, she finally came around now. Immediately, someone started flattering him. That's Marcus for you. Grace must have fallen deeply in love with you long ago. If Marcus breaks up with her now, she'll surely get on her knees and beg you not to leave her. The subsequent comments became increasingly vulgar, even containing many obscene remarks. I didn't want to read any further and scrolled to the bottom. Marcus had only replied, not yet. I definitely need to get her pregnant, then dump her. Only then will she never forget me for the rest of her life. Ideally, she'll have the child alone. A chill ran down my spine. My own partner, the one I shared a bed with, turned out to be such a dangerous and malicious person. He only cared about his own feelings, never considering mine. Had he ever considered the immense social and financial pressure an unmarried mother faces raising a child alone? That night, Marcus embraced me from behind, kissing my neck. In a hoarse voice, he whispered in my ear, Grace, let's have a child. I ignored him, pretending to be asleep. I expected Marcus to drop the topic on his own, but he immediately continued, we're both so good-looking, imagine how beautiful our child would be. If we don't have one, wouldn't it be a waste of good genes? Marcus's voice was in my ear, but in my mind, I heard his careless jeers from the club that day. At the very least, I'll make her pregnant and have her beg me, crying in front of everyone, not to leave her. Otherwise, how could I justify all the time and effort I've spent on her over the years? I thought I could dismiss it, but the sharp, incessant pain in my chest still took my breath away. I turned over, my cold gaze fixed on the man before me. And the dim room. I asked him, then will you marry me? Marcus was silent for a long moment, then suddenly chuckled, gently stroking my loose long hair. What's wrong with you? I brushed away Marcus's hand, ignoring his attempt to change the subject, and stubbornly told him, Marcus, answer my question. Marcus ruffled his hair, running a hand over his face with visible annoyance. Grace, I told you about this before. I'm not the marrying type. Besides, isn't love enough between us? Why do we need to be tied down by marriage? Yes, how could Marcus possibly marry me? He already has a fiancé. What was I still hoping for? I let out a hollow laugh. Right, if we're not getting married, then why have a child? Don't you know our child would be born out of wedlock? At the thought of it, tears welled up in my eyes, and I stared intently at Marcus with my bloodshot eyes. Are you really willing for our child to be born without a name or status? Marcus was speechless at my question. He quickly tried to comfort me. That's not what I meant, please don't misunderstand. I just love you so much and want to have a child with you quickly. With a child, you wouldn't leave me. I took a deep breath and said to Marcus, I don't have time to think about that right now. I have a new film to shoot. Let's discuss pregnancy after I finish it. Marcus was excited to hear this and immediately pressed me. What kind of film is it? Is there anything I can help with? This time, I didn't refuse him as I had in the past. Instead, I told him openly, it's an art house film about a couple's journey from falling in love, to drifting apart, and finally breaking up. Since it's not a commercial film, no investors are willing to fund it. Marcus immediately volunteered, don't worry, honey, I'll invest in it for you. I looked at Marcus's proactive demeanor and smiled faintly. In the past, I had only thought I was in a relationship with Marcus. I refused all the assets and resources he offered, anting to stand by his side through my own efforts. But Marcus defined our relationship as one of patronage. If that's the case, why shouldn't I take what Marcus willingly offers? This time, I didn't refuse. When I gave the script to Director Hayes, she was very pleased with it. Why are you bringing the script? Where's the screenwriter? I'd like to discuss some details with them. When I told Director Hayes that I had written the script myself, she was a bit surprised. She pushed up her glasses and said with a smile, I only knew you were a good actress before, I never expected you could write scripts too. I'll definitely direct your film. Hearing her say that, I breathed a sigh of relief. Director Hayes was a top director in the country, and one of the most prominent female directors. Her lens excelled at depicting women's emotions, and I felt only she could perfectly convey what I wanted. She talked a lot with me, including the issue of the film's intimacy level. I recall you once said you refused excessive physical contact with male actors. This film has quite a bit of intimacy. Are you sure you want to act in it yourself? I nodded. Just consider those things I said in the past as thoughtless remarks. I had once said I wouldn't kiss male actors. First it was for Julian, and later for Marcus. Now I had completely let go, and those taboos I adhered to for the sake of love no longer needed to exist. As I left Director Hayes' house, she asked me one last question. Aren't you having problems with Marcus? I smiled and shook my head. I've just come to a realization. I should focus on myself instead of begging for anyone's love. Giving up who I am for love, that's just foolish. Director Hayes agreed. Because of that rule, you could only play supporting roles before, even though you could have been much more famous. A career is a woman's best beauty treatment. She didn't say anything more, patting my shoulder and seeing me out the door. The film began shooting. As scheduled. I dragged my suitcase out of Marcus's high-end residence in the city center. I had arrived with this suitcase, and I left with the same one. I took one last look back at this place, both familiar and strange, then got into the car. I knew I wouldn't be coming back here. After texting Marcus to tell him not to disturb me while I was filming, I handed my phone to my assistant. If Marcus calls, humor him for me. Don't tell him where I am, I don't want to see him. Though my assistant didn't quite understand, she agreed. The filming schedule was very tight. The male lead was an actor who had never been famous but was quite skilled. He was known in the industry for his professionalism. Sometimes he wouldn't complain even when filming night scenes until 3 in the morning, and he would even approach me to discuss the plot during interactions. We collaborated quite pleasantly. However, during the initial filming of the romantic scenes between the leads, I almost broke down several times, nearly making it impossible to continue. Even with my heightened sensitivity during pregnancy, I felt guilty about my lack of professionalism as an actress. Director Hayes probably knew about my situation with Marcus and spoke to me several times. She asked me, do you want to change the script? I shook my head. No need. Give me an hour, I'll get myself together and start working right away. I was left alone in the lounge. The sweet moments Marcus and I shared over the years surged in my mind like fragments of memory. We searched for purple shells, symbols of happiness, together by the sea. We wrote our vows to each other on the beach. We climbed to the mountaintop hand in hand to watch the first rays of dawn. We held hands and dived into the ocean, gazing at the starry sky beneath the waves. Finally, unable to control myself, I collapsed onto the table, sobbing uncontrollably. The initial sweetness was irrecoverable, Marcus's tenderness had all been a deception. And yet, the love that bloomed in my heart from those gentle moments he left me could still nourish my acting. I shouldn't wallow in pain any longer. What he gave me, whether love or deceit, fueled my ascent, step by step. I lifted my head, a sweet, innocent smile on my face. Cut. That's a wrap for today. After filming the final sweet scene, I watched my male co-star, who was still deeply immersed in his role, and somehow, I suddenly felt a sense of release about this relationship. I patted him on the shoulder, smiling as I said, "Leo, want to grab a late-night snack?" Leo's face flushed slightly, and he sheepishly touched his earlobe. "Maybe not. Tomorrow's scenes are going to be intense, and I need to get into the right mindset. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll." Watching Leo flee, I couldn't help but laugh. But my smile vanished when I saw someone. Julian stood in the shadows not far away. The dim moonlight couldn't reach that corner, revealing only half of his face, deeply shrouded in darkness, his expression unreadable. I turned to leave, but Julian called out to me. "Grace!" I turned and glared at him, warning him again. "Don't call me that. You have no right. Didn't I tell you not to appear in front of me again?" Julian sighed, looking at me helplessly, then took off his trench coat and wrapped it around me. "It's so cold, why are you wearing so little? Doesn't your assistant know to take proper care of you?" Grace! Not far away, my assistant, Chloe, jogged over with a coat. Her steps faltered when she saw Julian. Mr. Chloe had been with me since I entered the industry, so she naturally knew about my relationship with Julian. She gave Julian a wary glance, then turned to me, waiting for my signal. I took the coat from Chloe and put it on, then handed Julian's trench coat back to him. "Take it back. I don't need it." Julian didn't take it. Instead, he grabbed my wrist with his other hand. My expression changed. Just as I tried to pull away, Julian forcefully yanked me into his embrace, holding my waist tightly. "Julian!" Before I could finish speaking, Julian's lips were already pressed against my ear. "Don't move. You wouldn't want anyone to know about your pregnancy, would you?" At his words, I stood there, stiff and helpless, gazing into Julian's dark, smiling eyes. It took a while before I managed to calm down. Gritting my teeth, I turned to Chloe, who was about to come over and help. "Chloe, go wait in the car. It's too cold. Mr. Hayes and I are going to grab a coffee nearby." Chloe's eyes widened in surprise. She nodded, then whispered as I walked away, "Grace, be careful. Call me if anything happens." Julian let out a cold chuckle, sounding rather displeased. "Isn't your assistant being a bit too nosy?" I gave him a cold glance. "You're the one being too nosy." Julian was silenced by my remark, but the arm he had around me didn't loosen. He forcefully led me into a coffee shop and steered me into a booth in a secluded corner. Looking down at the steaming milk in front of me, my lips twitched. I impatiently urged Julian, "What exactly do you want? Don't think you can threaten me just because you know my secret." Julian sighed. "You haven't told Marcus about your pregnancy?" I lowered my head, stirring the milk in my cup with a spoon, watching the ripples spread in circles. "This is between Marcus and me. Don't interfere anymore." Julian's eyes darkened. He questioned me in a deep voice, "You must know he's getting engaged soon. Grace, don't be foolish. Do you really want to stay with him without any status, or are you planning to secretly leave the country and have the child there?" I have to say, in many ways, Julian and Marcus were very similar. They saw women as mere appendages, looking down on them and believing women would bear their children and sacrifice for them. In their eyes, women were creatures of love. I said coolly, "I'm not that foolish." Before I could finish, Julian suddenly pulled my hand and held it tightly in his palm. He lowered his head, kissed my fingertips, and whispered, "Leave him." "Do you know why Marcus hasn't come to find you these past few days?" Julian sneered. "He's busy preparing for his engagement party. He and his new fiancée are in their blissful honeymoon phase. Why would he have time for you?" Even though I was slowly letting go of my feelings for Marcus, hearing those words still made my heart ache. But I didn't want to give Julian another chance to expose my vulnerability. I said calmly, "I know, Julian. I'm well aware of everything you're saying." Julian paused, taken aback. Soon, he gritted his teeth in frustration and demanded coldly, "You know all this and you're still carrying on. Do you really want to be Marcus's mistress? Grace, are you out of your mind? You're giving up the chance to be a legitimate Mrs. Hayes, and you Before Julian could finish, the coffee shop door burst open. Amidst the jingling of the wind chimes, an enraged voice rang out. "Let her go." I turned around and met Marcus's face, twisted and contorted with rage. Marcus? How did he find me here? How much of what Julian and I just said did he hear? My pregnancy. I instinctively touched my lower abdomen. However, Marcus didn't look at me. He just suddenly charged forward and landed a punch on Julian's face. "You two have long since broken up. Stop harassing her." Julian took Marcus's punch, wiped a bloody corner of his lip with the back of his hand, and glared fiercely at the man before him, who possessed equally handsome features. "You have no right to say that, you scum who let Grace down." Julian punched Marcus back. "My business with Grace is none of your concern." Marcus didn't hold back either. They exchanged blows, punching each other relentlessly. Chairs, tables, and tableware were overturned, and glass shattered all over the floor. Chloe, my assistant, ran in almost immediately after. "Grace, are you all right?" I put away my phone. "Haven't. G just called the police," and walked toward her. "Let's go. We're heading back. We have to be on set early tomorrow." With that, I ignored the two men still fiercely fighting in the coffee shop and pulled Chloe out. It wasn't until we were back in the car that Chloe finally breathed a sigh of relief, patting her chest with lingering fear. Just now I saw Marcus suddenly rush towards the coffee shop, so I quickly got out and followed. "Thankfully, Grace, you weren't hurt." The minivan started, and Chloe still looked anxiously out the window towards the coffee shop. "Mr. Hayes and Marcus will be all right, won't they?" I scoffed. What could happen? Didn't I already call the police? Just as the minivan turned the corner at the next intersection, it passed a police car speeding by with sirens blaring. I got back to the hotel in the early hours, took off my makeup, and went straight to sleep. In the middle of the night, it sounded like someone was knocking. I groggily opened my eyes, fumbled for the earplugs on my nightstand, put them in, and went back to sleep. It wasn't until past 8 in the morning when I was leaving that I opened my door and saw someone leaning against the wall by the entrance, long-limbed and blocking my way. I was about to quietly step past him when, without warning, he opened his bloodshot eyes and stared directly at me. "Grace." Marcus's voice was hoarse. No wonder. He'd just been released from the station yesterday and came straight to me. It would be strange if his voice wasn't hoarse. Seeing me, Marcus's eyes lit up, and he quickly latched onto me, looking as forlorn as an abandoned puppy. "Why haven't you been replying to my messages lately? I finally found you, only to see you with Julian. Have you two been secretly keeping in touch behind my back?" Hearing his suspicions, my heart no longer felt pain. I just pushed Marcus away with considerable annoyance as he tried to hug me. I said coldly, "Julian came to find me. He came to tell me." I deliberately paused, staring into Marcus's dark eyes before continuing. "He told me you're getting engaged soon." At my words, Marcus's expression instantly changed. "It's not like that, Grace, let me explain." I stood still, glancing down at the time on my phone. "I have 10 minutes until I need to gather at the set. I can give you 5 minutes at most." Marcus clearly hadn't expected me to give him a chance to explain. He was momentarily stunned. Time ticked by, and my patience waned with each passing second. Until Marcus finally spoke. "I don't genuinely want to get engaged to Evelyn Thorne. We have no feelings for each other whatsoever. We've already discussed it. After we get married, we'll go our separate ways, and I can still be with you." He gripped my hand tightly, emphasizing again, "Grace, you're the one I truly love." Every word that man uttered made me feel utterly disgusted. My body trembled uncontrollably with anger. I gritted my teeth, almost spitting out the question, "Marcus, how dare you say such a thing? Are you asking me to be your mistress?" I yanked my hand free and slapped him hard. Marcus clutched his face, his eyes wide with disbelief as he stared at me. This was the second time I had slapped him. "Grace, you." This time, I didn't pretend or play along. Instead, I glared back at him with disgust and said, word by word, "You sicken me. Don't let me see you again." With that, I turned and left. At the end of the hallway, Chloe was hiding in the corner, looking scared. She probably thought I had overslept and was coming to find me, but didn't expect to see such a scene. I pulled her into the elevator and forcefully pressed the close door button. "Grace." 7 The moment the doors closed, Marcus's panicked face vanished through the narrow gap. The elevator descended, but from above, I could hear Marcus violently pounding on the door, loud thuds that, even through the wall, resonated in every corner of the elevator shaft. "Grace, open the door." Chloe fearfully clutched my arm, her whole body trembling, her face pale with panic, even her lips quivering uncontrollably. Grace, Marcus seems really angry, I said nonchalantly. He'll get used to it. Let's go quickly, or Director Hayes will chew me out for being late. I had thought that once Marcus's engagement was exposed, our relationship would be over. All past matters would be wiped clean. From then on, we'd go our separate ways. Perhaps my idea of getting revenge on him at his engagement party could also. But I hadn't expected that halfway through a kissing scene with Leo, Marcus would burst out from nowhere and pin Leo to the ground, beating him. Damn you! You dare touch my woman? If I don't kill you today, I'm not a Hawthorne. Marcus's appearance was so sudden that everyone on set froze. It wasn't until I rushed forward, desperately trying to pull Marcus away, that they reacted. The crew members stopped what they were doing and rushed over to restrain Marcus. Marcus, calm down. We were just filming. It was a forced perspective shot, just a forced perspective shot. Please stop. But he was like a rabid beast, violently tossing aside the few crew members who tried to hold him back. His bloodshot eyes coldly swept over everyone present as he roared, "Let's see who dares to come closer. I'll make sure they can't survive in this industry." Everyone hesitated. No one dared to provoke the enraged elite scion, they could only silently pray for Leo in their hearts. Marcus cracked his knuckles, the bones making frightening popping sounds. With a grim expression, he strode step by step toward Leo, who was still on the ground, unable to stand. I knew I couldn't let Marcus continue acting like this. I walked over and stood between him and Leo. Have you made enough of a scene? Marcus glared at me with cold eyes, forcing out each word through gritted teeth. No. Get out of the way. The current Marcus was like a wild beast unleashed, ready to attack anyone standing in his path. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. If you want to hit someone, hit me. I personally chose the male lead, and I wrote the script. You don't need to take your anger out on Leo. The blood vessels in Marcus's eyes became more prominent. He stared at me gloomily, his voice hoarse. You promised me you would never film kissing scenes with anyone else for my sake. I said calmly, I regret it. I'm an actress, intimate scenes are part of my job. I no longer want to sacrifice my career for anyone, and that includes you. Besides, do you even have the right to question me now? Marcus's knuckles cracked. I almost thought he was going to lay hands on me right there, in front of the cameras. But for some reason, he held back just before raising his hand, merely giving me a chilling warning. Stop this production immediately and come back with me, or else. I didn't want to hear the rest of his sentence, so I cut him off without hesitation. I won't go back. This production is my life's work. The only one who should leave is you. Marcus took 2 agitated steps closer to me. I warned him, don't come any closer. Otherwise, I'll call the police. Marcus, you don't want to be released from the police station this morning only to go back in now, do you? If this gets out of hand, how will you explain it to your elders and the Thorne family? Marcus's steps faltered. He stared intently at me as if he'd never known me before. After a long moment, I heard him spit out a few words through gritted teeth. Grace, don't you dare regret this. Marcus turned and walked away. Leo's assistant and other crew members quickly helped him up. Filming was temporarily suspended. Leo went to the hospital for a checkup. I sat in the lounge with Director Hayes, discussing details for script revisions. Chloe came in to bring us dessert soup. She hesitated to speak upon seeing Director Hayes, but her worried expression was evident. Just then, Leo returned, and Director Hayes went over to check on him. Only Chloe and I were left in the lounge. It was then that Chloe spoke, her face filled with worry. Grace, do you think Marcus will retaliate against us? He invested in this entire production. What if he pulls his funding? I shook my head, reassuring her. Don't worry, he won't. Marcus cares about his reputation. If he haggled over such a small amount of money, word would get out, and people would mock him for being a sore loser. Someone like Marcus, who prides himself on being able to walk through a flower garden without a single petal clinging to him, fears nothing more than getting entangled in a mess. Seeing how certain I was, Chloe still couldn't quite relax. But the Hawthorne family is a top elite family in East Coast metropolis, and Marcus is a well-known elite scion in the East Coast elite circle. If you treat him like this, will you still be able to make it in the entertainment industry later? I patted Chloe's shoulder dismissively. Don't worry, I've already planned my path forward. I've earned enough money over the years anyway. At worst, I'll go abroad and start over from being an extra. For me, acting is just a hobby. And I also want to know how Marcus will react after this. For a man in his position, a woman he discards can be forgotten in an instant. But what if, this time, he's the one who gets discarded first? Especially if that woman was someone he had desperately pursued for years. Will it leave a lasting impression? Will he remember it for the rest of his life? Leo pushed open the lounge door and came in. He came to thank me. After all, I had saved him earlier. Otherwise, given Marcus's earlier stance, he would have been severely injured, if not dead. I felt a bit guilty. If it weren't for this production, you wouldn't have gotten involved in this. I thought you'd refuse to act after coming back. Leo smiled, his refined yet rugged features instantly animated by his grin, like the sun itself. Actually, I'm past my prime. Forget good roles, I can't even get the scraps left by others. My company doesn't have any good resources and can't help me at all. I originally thought I'd have to retire from the industry once my contract ended. To get a leading role before my acting career ends, I'll have no regrets in this life. Leo was a very genuine person. He was also sensible, knowing that you couldn't go head-to-head with an elite scion like Marcus. Smiling, he pulled a check from his pocket and waved it at me. And Marcus's lawyer gave me a check for a hefty sum. If I shared this online, I bet a lot of people would line up asking Marcus to beat them up. Thinking about it that way, I guess I didn't lose out. I suddenly recalled a news story from a while ago. A wealthy heir got into a fight at a bar, hit someone, and settled it out of court for over $1 million. After it was exposed, for a whole month, many people in a major East Coast city went around looking for that wealthy heir, asking to be beaten up. Thinking about that, I couldn't help but laugh as well. After that incident, Leo and I became much closer, and our chemistry in the following scenes grew stronger. However, ever since Marcus left, the media had been swamped with news about him and Ms. Evelyn Thorne. One day it was Marcus buying Evelyn Thorne a diamond necklace worth millions. The next it was Marcus and Evelyn Thorne trying on wedding dresses at a famous international designer bridal shop, and the day after that, they were both seen at such and such hotel. They occupied the trending topics for as long as I was filming. Not to mention Chloe, even director Hayes couldn't stand it anymore. You should have slapped him twice back then. Leaving a man like that is the right thing to do. Ugh, what a jerk. How could I not know that Marcus was deliberately creating these trending topics for me to see? His mental age might be only 5, but that doesn't mean I'm the same. I merely glanced at them, my heart devoid of any ripples. On the day of the wrap party, the production team held a live press conference. It was originally for promoting the production, but as expected, a reporter still asked me, "We hear Marcus is about to get engaged to Ms. Evelyn Thorne, the eldest daughter of the Thorne Group. Ms. Grace, what are your thoughts?" Director Hayes and Leo both looked at me with some concern. Leo even wanted to step in and divert the topic. But I still looked at the camera, smiling nonchalantly. Congratulations to Marcus on his engagement. I wish him and Ms. Thorne a lifetime of happiness and many children soon. The reporter's maliciousness didn't stop there. It even made me suspect he was intentionally sent to trick me into saying something. For years, everyone thought Marcus would marry you, Ms. Grace. Now that Marcus has found a Ms. Thorne, someone from an equally matched family, will this affect your relationship with Marcus? The entire venue instantly fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. After all, every relationship I had was passionate and dramatic, whether with Julian or Marcus. I smiled, picked up the microphone, and said unhurriedly, "I'm not aware of any relationship between Marcus and me. Can you enlighten me?" The reporter was speechless. Even if he had more guts, he wouldn't dare badmouth the East Coast elite scion, known for his bad temper. His audacity towards me was simply because he saw me as discarded and wanted to kick me while I was down. Before handing the microphone back, I smiled and said to him, "If I were to get married, I'd choose someone born after 2000. I'm not really into older men." That night, my headline overshadowed the news of Marcus and Evelyn Thorne's family arrangement, which had dominated the trending topics for a long time. I don't know what others thought. I just went home and slept soundly. It wasn't until the morning of the third day that I groggily woke up. The doorbell rang like an explosion. Hot it was Chloe. Rubbing my eyes, I stumbled towards the door. "Didn't I give you a key? Did you lose it again?" The moment I pulled open the door, the person standing before me wasn't my assistant, Chloe, but Marcus. I instinctively tried to close the door, but Marcus quickly propped it open. I used all my strength, but I wasn't as strong as him. With a loud thud, the door swung wide open, rattling loudly back and forth. Marcus leaned in uncontrollably, pressing his fuzzy head close to my neck and rubbing it forcefully. "Grace, I miss you so much, I really. Marcus choked, but I could no longer hear what he was saying. He was drunk, and the strong scent of alcohol emanating from him made my stomach churn, making me want to vomit. I forcefully pushed him away, stepping back a few paces before barely managing to suppress the urge to vomit in front of Marcus. I didn't want him to discover my pregnancy, even though Marcus was now quite disoriented from the alcohol. His messy bangs obscured half of his eyes, giving him a very disheveled look. Seeing me pull away, he choked out, "Do you hate me that much already?" In front of me, Marcus always habitually played the weak card. He knew I fell for it. But I didn't love him anymore. I stared at him coldly, unceremoniously ordering him to leave. "Marcus, this is my home. Please leave immediately. You wouldn't want reporters to catch you harassing another woman right before your engagement, would you?" Marcus scoffed, pushing his way further inside as he said carelessly, "Let them film whatever they want. Didn't you deliberately try to distance yourself from me a while ago? This is a perfect chance to let the whole world know whose woman you are." No sooner had Marcus's voice faded than there was a loud thud. He collapsed onto the floor beneath my sofa, landing face down and sprawling steadily on the white shag carpet. Seeing Marcus in such a disheveled state, I couldn't be bothered with him. But he couldn't st. I didn't want any more trouble. I called Marcus's assistant, informing him that Marcus had gotten drunk and come to my place, and asked him to take Marcus away. In less than 15 minutes, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, the people standing outside were not only his assistant but also Marcus's mother. Mrs. Hawthorne saw me, snorted coldly, almost looking down her nose at me. "Where's Marcus?" I pointed towards the living room. The entrance opened directly into the living room. Marcus's mother looked up and immediately saw Marcus sprawled on the white shag carpet, and her face instantly darkened. The assistant had already gone past me. Marcus's mother, however, poked my nose with her sharp nails, scolding me angrily. "Grace, you just let Marcus lie on the floor? Didn't you think to help him onto the sofa? How do you take care of a man? No wonder Marcus." Before she could say anything worse, I cut her off. "Mrs. Hawthorne, Marcus was trespassing. I didn't call the police out of consideration for our past relationship." I met Marcus's mother's angry gaze. "Otherwise, you'd probably have to pick him up from the police station right now." Marcus's mother looked at me as if she could devour me. I've never been afraid of her, not before and certainly not now. I just smiled back at her. Just then, Marcus's assistant came out, carrying a heavily intoxicated Marcus. I instinctively stepped aside. Unexpectedly, as Marcus passed me, he grabbed my wrist. "I'm not leaving. I'm not going back. I want to be with you, Grace." I frowned, prying Marcus's fingers off one by one, and said calmly, "Mr. Hawthorne, there's nothing between us anymore. Please have some self-respect." Marcus, still drunk, started to cry. "I don't agree to break up. I know I was wrong, please forgive me. I truly love you. Grace. We've been together for so many years, can't you see how genuine my feelings are?" He cried while trying to lunge forward and hug me, but his assistant firmly held him back. "Marcus, you're drunk. Can we please go back now? Mrs. Hawthorne is still here." But Marcus seemed not to hear at all, just staring intensely at me with bloodshot eyes. He struggled, stubbornly trying to embrace me. I frowned and glanced at Marcus's mother. "Mrs. Hawthorne, aren't you going to control your son?" Marcus's mother's face was darker than the bottom of a cast-iron skillet. She gave the assistant a look, and soon 2 more bodyguards rushed in from outside, escorting Marcus away. Marcus's shouts still echoed in my ears, but I only found them irritating. I thought that would be the end of it, but Marcus's mother said to me, "Ms. Grace, I have something to say to you." After speaking, Marcus's mother casually closed the door and walked towards the living room sofa. Sitting in front of the sofa, I looked impatiently at Marcus's mother. "Mrs. Hawthorne, is there anything else?" Marcus's mother took out a checkbook from her Himalaya crocodile skin bag, scribbled a string of numbers, and pushed the check towards me. "Here's 5 million. Don't ever see my son again." I took the check, glanced at the zeros on it, and stood up, heading into the room. Soon, I printed out a voluntary gift agreement and slapped it down in front of Marcus's mother. "Sign this contract first. That way, you can't accuse me of blackmail later, once I've taken the money." Marcus's mother's eyes widened. She pointed at me furiously. "You. Grace, you." Marcus's mother's chest heaved violently. It took her a long moment to force out a few words through gritted teeth. "I always knew prostitutes are heartless, actresses are ungrateful. How could a woman like you genuinely care for Marcus? Your schemes are far too elaborate." Marcus's mother's words made me laugh uncontrollably. I countered, "Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Why are you angry now? Are you expecting me to cry and beg, telling you that Marcus and I have true love, and I'd never leave him? Marcus's mother was speechless, her face fluctuating between shades of green and white. She snatched the contract from my hand, quickly signed a few words, and threw it forcefully at my face. Remember what you promised me, otherwise, with the Hawthorne family's power, getting rid of you would be easier than crushing an ant. I reached out, caught the contract, and after confirming it was in order, I walked to the door with a smile. Opening the door, I reminded Marcus's mother, Marcus and I have long since broken up. I just hope, Mrs. Hawthorne, that you can control your son and prevent him from harassing me further. Marcus's mother gave me a fierce glare and stormed out. I cashed the check Marcus's mother gave me that same day and deposited it into my Swiss bank account. After that, Marcus truly didn't appear again, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I went to my best friend's hospital for a checkup and booked an appointment for an abortion. I've lost a lot of weight recently. My best friend advised me with concern, typically, a baby can be aborted around 6 weeks. Your surgery is scheduled for 2 weeks from now, so rest well during this period and make sure to get enough nutrition. I gently caressed my lower abdomen. A life was slowly growing there, yet in 2 weeks, it would cease to exist. Seeing my expression, my best friend became even more worried. Grace, are you all right? Maybe I should take the day off and go home with you? I managed to force a faint smile at her and gently shook my head. No need. My assistant is waiting for me downstairs. Don't worry. Just as I stepped out of the elevator, I unexpectedly ran into someone at the hospital entrance. Leo? Leo saw me and immediately smiled. Grace. After calling out, Leo probably realized that running into an acquaintance at a hospital wasn't a good thing, so he immediately reined in his smile. You're here for a checkup too? Are you feeling unwell? I replied, my stomach's been bothering me, so I came to get some medicine. What about you? Leo touched his face, looking a bit embarrassed. I'm here for a follow-up appointment. He didn't say much, but I could guess it was for a follow-up regarding the injuries Marcus had inflicted on him earlier. Thinking that this whole thing started because of me, I felt a little embarrassed. Without bringing up the matter again, I said to Leo, I said I'd treat you to a meal before. What a coincidence to run into you here. How about we do it today? Leo didn't refuse. I should be treating you. Leo called his assistant, telling him to leave but to leave the car behind. Given that my reputation had recently soared due to the scandals, Leo took me to a private club with good privacy. Leo was a really great guy, the kind of honest, considerate, non-threatening older brother type. Our relationship on set had been good, and after that meal, I felt even more comfortable. Compared to staying cooped up alone at home, having someone with similar interests to talk to significantly improved my mood. During dinner, Leo asked me, what are your plans after filming this production? I gently shook my head. I might take a break for a while. Both this relationship and this production had been a huge drain on me. I wanted to rest properly for a bit. Leo thought for a moment and asked me, I have a hot pot restaurant opening soon. Would you be interested in investing? Our show is about to be released, so we could leverage the buzz to generate more publicity. As Leo said this, he instinctively touched the tip of his nose, his face turning slightly red. I hadn't expected Leo to have such intentions. I asked him, don't your injuries from Marcus still hurt? And you dare to provoke me again? Leo looked even more embarrassed and said with a sheepish laugh, I heard you two broke up, and Marcus is getting married to Miss Thorne soon, so I. At this point, Leo waved his hand, hastily explaining, I'm not trying to take advantage. I just wah. Ted to get in line. Do I have a chance? Leo's eyes sparkled. His cautious demeanor always made me involuntarily think of Marcus from back then. Don't men always treat women with such caution when they haven't obtained them, but once they do, they stop cherishing them? Perhaps I was silent for too long, and the light in Leo's eyes gradually faded. He awkwardly ran a hand through his hair, his smile stiff. I'm sorry, I just wanted to try. It's okay if you don't want to. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, otherwise, it will be awkward when we meet later. Just forget what I just said. I have to admit, Leo was a very perceptive person, knowing when to advance and retreat. Although I didn't have romantic feelings for him, he was indeed very easy to get along with. It's fine, I didn't hear what you said just now. Leo breathed a sigh of relief. Then we're still friends, right? I nodded, raised my glass, and clinked it with his. You'll always be like a brother to me. If you ever need help with anything in the future, just ask. A relieved smile finally appeared on Leo's face. As we were drinking, someone rushed over unexpectedly, grabbing my hand and stopping me from holding the wine glass. Before I could look up, that familiar gnashing voice rang in my ear. Grace, how dare you cheat on me with another man out here? I turned to face Marcus's face, twisted with rage. Leo also frowned and stood up, stepping forward to try and stop Marcus's rough actions. Mr. Hawthorne, please be polite. You and Grace have already broken up. Leo's words were cut short as Marcus brutally kicked him away. He looked at Leo as if he were an insect. What, haven't you been beaten enough? Get lost, don't let me see you again, and don't bother Grace anymore, otherwise. Leo stood up, glaring angrily at Marcus, and said hoarsely, is it me bothering Grace, or are you bothering Grace? Why don't you ask her who she really wants to stay? At these words, Marcus seemed greatly provoked, turning his head, his cold, sharp eyes fixed on me. Grace, tell him to get lost. I couldn't believe that even now, Marcus would speak to me with such a condescending, commanding tone. Where did he get such confidence? I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my anger, and said to Marcus, word for word, the one who should leave is you. Let me go. Marcus's expression instantly became even more terrifying. Grace, I'll give you one more chance. Tell him to leave, and then come home with me. I'll pretend today's events never happened. You know what happens to people who anger me. I tightened my grip on the wine glass, the red wine inside sloshing, a blood-like color. I forcefully splashed the red wine at Marcus, seizing the chance to break free from his grasp. Enough, Marcus, men who can't let go only disgust me. Stay away from me. Marcus's head and face were covered in red wine, drips of it running down his hair, making him look utterly disheveled. But what he found even harder to accept were my words. Marcus's eyes turned bloodshot. He stared at me with a viciousness as if he wanted to flay me alive and tear me apart. I heard him force my name out, one syllable at a time, through gritted teeth. Grace. His expression was too terrifying. I instinctively took a step back. Seeing this, Marcus became even angrier, taking a large step forward, wanting to grab me. In that instant, Leo quickly stepped forward and slapped Marcus's hand away. Don't touch her. Marcus coldly stared at Leo, who was blocking his way. Move aside, this isn't your business. Leo glanced back at my pale face and ultimately did not move. Mr. Hawthorne, Grace has already rejected you. Please leave. You wouldn't want people to photograph you harassing a famous actress in a club, would you? Marcus's face darkened. He stopped wasting words with Leo and punched him in the face. What are you, to dare call Grace so intimately? Although Leo had studied martial arts for a few years, he was still far from Marcus, a wooing-level expert who had learned martial arts since childhood. Though Leo tried to attack a few times, Marcus dodged all of them. Marcus scoffed, then delivered a heavy punch to Leo's chest. Leo grunted, blood at the corner of his mouth. Before he could recover, Marcus's next punch landed. Leo could barely block a few initial blows, but then he couldn't defend himself anymore and took several direct hits from Marcus. I clearly heard the sound of ribs cracking. Anxious, I no longer cared about fear and rushed forward to stop Marcus. Stop. Marcus turned to look at me, his dark eyes filled with a terrifying bloodlust. Grace, you should understand, the more you care about him, the less I will let him go. I paused slightly, just about to explain my relationship with Leo, when Marcus's bloodshot eyes fixed on Leo's face. His eyes were filled with a dark madness. You're a celebrity, right? If I scar your face or cut off one of your ears, your life will be ruined. Leo looked incredulous. But I knew Marcus was absolutely capable of doing something like that. And even if he did, with the power of the Hawthorne family, he would at most just have to pay a small fine. Seeing Marcus pull out a short knife from somewhere, I panicked and grabbed his arm. Marcus, you can't do this. But Marcus wouldn't give up so easily. Grace, I won't allow you to have another man in your heart, especially this useless one. During our struggle, the short knife in Marcus's hand accidentally grazed my shoulder. Ah! I clutched the wound on my arm, gritting my teeth, blood dripping from between my fingers. I looked up at Marcus, questioning him word by word. Is this enough? The stinging sight of blood brought Marcus back to his senses. He dropped the short knife and quickly stepped forward to support me. Grace, I didn't mean to. I just. His distressed look didn't seem feigned, he looked as if he was in so much pain he was about to cry. And the club manager, who had been hiding in the corner, also rushed over. Mr. Hawthorne, Ms. Grace is badly hurt. Here's a first aid kit, I'll bandage her. Marcus took the first aid kit, bandaged me simply, and then tried to pick me up again. What are you doing? I glared at him warily. Marcus's tone was gentle but firm. To the hospital. I won't rest until you're checked out. As soon as I heard the words hospital, goosebumps broke out all over me. If I went to the hospital, given Marcus's personality, he would definitely make the hospital give me a full examination, and then my pregnancy would definitely be discovered. But given how Marcus was now, would he let me go if he found out I was pregnant? No, he would probably use it as an excuse to lock me up, making me completely his caged bird. The thought of losing all my freedom made me feel suffocated. My voice involuntarily became shrill and broken as I forcefully pushed Marcus away. No, I'm not going. Marcus furrowed his brows. No, you must go. Don't throw a tantrum with me. I raised my head, staring into Marcus's eyes. I care about my body very much, Mr. Hawthorne, please rest assured. I'll get myself checked out, you don't need to worry. I don't want the media to think I'm a third party interfering in someone else's relationship. Marcus sighed. Just when I thought he was giving up, he suddenly hoisted me onto his shoulder. Don't worry, no one dares to write news about you without my orders, unless they want to die. His domineering words didn't make me feel relaxed. Instead, they made me even more nervous. I struggled, let me go. Marcus, damn it, put me down. Put me down. But Marcus ignored everyone, carrying me out. Leo still tried to struggle forward to stop Marcus, but was held back by the club manager. I heard the club manager advising him, Mr. Leo, just try to be more understanding. There's no need to fight someone of Mr. Hawthorne's standing. You can't win against him, and you'll only end up hurting yourself. He and Ms. Grace are boyfriend and girlfriend, he won't do anything to her. I didn't hear Leo's reply because I was already being carried out of the club by Marcus. All the way to the underground parking lot, I was so jostled that my stomach churned, and I almost couldn't help but vomit on Marcus's collar. Just as I was trying to suppress my nausea, Marcus had already opened the door of his Bugatti Veyron and shoved me into the passenger seat. I scrambled from the passenger seat to the driver's seat, opened the driver's side door, and tried to climb out. Marcus narrowed his eyes and swiftly blocked me from the other side. Grace, don't force me to tie you up. My throat was dry, and I swallowed hard, thinking if there was any other way to escape. Marcus had completely lost patience, reaching out and grabbing me, trying to shove me back into the car. I struggled desperately but couldn't break free from his grip. The car sped along, and soon we arrived at a high-end private hospital owned by the Hawthorne Group. I watched Marcus park the car in front of the hospital, knowing I probably couldn't escape. Despair spread through me little by little. Just when I thought there was no hope, the car door suddenly opened, and I saw Julian's handsome, gentle face. 11. Julian? How did he suddenly appear here? Julian grabbed my hand and pulled me out. He gently whispered to me, come with me. I barely thought, instinctively unbuckled my seatbelt, and gripped Julian's hand. Marcus wouldn't just watch me leave. He lunged forward to grab me but missed. Seeing this, Marcus also quickly got out of the car and blocked Julian, who was pulling me away. He looked down at Julian with extreme disdain. Julian, it's you again. Grace has been sick of seeing you for ages, and you're still bothering her? You're truly shameless. Julian sneered. How are you any different from me now? Neither of us should mock the other. Besides, Grace at least wants to go with me now. Marcus's face grew uglier and uglier as he looked at me. Grace, are you really going with Julian? Don't forget how he treated you before. I looked at Marcus, then at Julian, who was holding my hand. I didn't want to forgive either of these men, but if I wanted to leave today, I could only rely on Julian now. Finally, I squeezed Julian's hand and whispered with pale lips, take me away. A victorious smile appeared on Julian's face. Marcus, however, was furious. What if she agrees? Without my permission, Grace can't go anywhere. Julian, you should know that you're no match for me. Although Marcus was speaking the truth, Julian looked confident. You're right, I'm not your match, but you're not fearless either. As he spoke, Julian's gaze drifted into the distance, a cold smile curving his lips. Marcus seemed to sense something too and turned to look. A line of black Hummers approached majestically, stopping near Marcus's Bugatti Veyron. Immediately afterward, a group of burly bodyguards, about 6.5 feet tall, got out of the black Hummers and quickly surrounded Marcus. Young master, Madam ordered us to bring you home. Marcus was enraged when he saw these men. Get lost. Young master, please don't make things difficult for us. The bodyguards advanced, and Julian pulled me back a few steps. Marcus's martial arts skills were indeed excellent. Even though these bodyguards were retired special forces, they couldn't gain even a slight advantage over Marcus. Gradually, some fell down. I looked up worriedly and asked Julian, what if these people can't control Marcus? Julian shook his head, gently comforting me, they won't. I won't let Marcus take you away again. His voice was firm, but I felt nothing. I was only worried about myself. Marcus quickly knocked down all the bodyguards and tried to walk towards me. Suddenly, a bodyguard behind him stood up, pulled out a syringe, and forcefully plunged it into Marcus's neck. Marcus tried to struggle, but as pale liquid in the syringe slowly entered his bloodstream, the sharpness in his eyes gradually faded. His entire body slowly went limp, and he finally collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Watching Marcus being carried on the shoulder by the standing bodyguard, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. One side of the bodyguard's face was bruised, and the movement of his facial muscles was a little strange. He said to Julian, "Mr. Julian, Madam thanks you for providing the young master's location." Julian nodded. "Then I'll take my girlfriend and leave. I hope your madam can keep her promise and not let Marcus harass my girlfriend again." The bodyguard's gaze fell on me, then quickly withdrew. "Mr. Julian, rest assured, that will absolutely not happen." Just as Julian was pulling me away, Marcus, still on the bodyguard's shoulder, suddenly stirred, straining to grab my arm. I was startled, turning back to meet Marcus's weakly lifted eyes. "Since you can forgive him, why can't you forgive me?" I looked at Marcus coldly. "I won't forgive Julian, and I won't forgive you." Prying Marcus's hand off mine finger by finger, I finally shook him off. The sedative's effects finally rendered Marcus completely unconscious. But the last look he gave me sent an inexplicable chill down my spine. I sat in Julian's car and noticed it wasn't heading home, but towards Central Hospital. "Take me home. I'm fine, no need for the hospital." But Julian didn't listen to me. "You're pregnant, and you've been through such a scare today. It's best to get checked." I frowned, glaring at him warily without speaking. I didn't know if Julian was testing me or if he genuinely knew something. Julian turned and smiled at me. "You instinctively guarded your belly just now, which made me suspect this possibility. So, before we got in the car, I had someone check the hospital where your best friend works, and sure enough, they found something." I instinctively tensed up. "What about Marcus?" Julian looked at me meaningfully. "Indeed, you don't want Marcus to know about your pregnancy. Since that's your wish, I certainly won't let him find out." I pursed my lips and remained silent. The car was quiet. Julian suddenly spoke. "Grace, if the child needs a father, I'm a good choice. In the entire East Coast metropolis, perhaps only I can stand up to that lunatic Marcus. If you're with me, I'll protect you well. When you give birth, I'll treat the child as my own. You can rest assured." I stared at Julian's profile for a very long time, unable to believe he would say such words. How arrogant Julian used to be. It was truly a miracle that he could now say he would raise another man's child. Perhaps for many, this would be very touching, like a man they had admired for years suddenly turning back to dutifully pursue them. The sheer satisfaction of that could make many people fantasize wildly. But for me, there was no feeling whatsoever. I calmly asked Julian, "The reason Marcus was with me back then was because you two made a bet, wasn't it?" Julian froze. I saw his fingers tighten around the steering wheel. "You know everything? No wonder you won't forgive Marcus." But I unceremoniously cut off Julian's defense. I said, in my heart, "You two are the same scum who trampled my feelings underfoot." "Julian, there's no need to explain. You are essentially no different." I told Julian to pull over. The car stopped by the roadside, and I got out without looking back. Since that day, Julian always found excuses to bring me things, wanting to see me. I didn't want to see him. He would always leave the items at my door, then light an unlit cigarette and lean against the door, slowly smoking until it was finished before leaving utterly dejected. I hadn't planned on going out, but today my best friend called and asked me to go to the hospital for a checkup, so I had to go. It was very late when I returned. The light in the apartment building stairwell was broken, so I had to use my phone's flashlight to go up. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I instinctively quickened my pace, but the footsteps behind me also sped up. Just as I rushed to the top of the stairs, reaching for my keys, a hand suddenly wrapped around me, and my back was locked into a broad, warm embrace. "Help!" 12 I instinctively wanted to scream for help, but the man behind me covered my mouth and nose with a cloth. I struggled while trying to hold my breath, forcefully elbowing backward towards his lower back. A faint, familiar grunt escaped him, but I had no time to think. The man holding me didn't let go. Soon, I was forced to open my mouth and nose due to suffocation. A pungent smell of ether filled the air, and I uncontrollably passed out. Before losing consciousness, a familiar voice softly whispered in my ear, "You're finally back with me. This time I will never let you go again." When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in Marcus's minimalist black, white, and gray bedroom. The 2.4-meter bed was covered with dark black silk sheets. I was wearing a translucent lace nightgown. I struggled to sit up, but my wrists were handcuffed to the iron railing of the headboard. I tugged hard, the handcuffs clinking against the railing with clear clack 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 sounds, but they didn't show the slightest wear even as my wrists turned red from the strain. Just as I was trying to figure out how to escape, the room door opened. Marcus walked in from outside, dressed in a suit. He closed the door, taking off his clothes as he walked towards me. Awake? I looked up, glaring at Marcus, who stood over me, hating him to the core. Marcus, are you insane? You actually kidnapped me. MMPH. My words were cut off as Marcus leaned down and covered my lips with his. I couldn't speak, or even breathe. He was just frantic, as if trying to extract a tiny bit of real presence from me. I lay on the tangled sheets, Marcus breathing beside me. He reached out and pulled me into his embrace. The handcuffs made soft sounds, but I ultimately couldn't struggle free and was held tightly by him. My lips were bitten, and it hurt to speak, so I just glared coldly at Marcus. Marcus sighed softly, his warm hand pressing over my eyes. His voice sounded like he was crying. Don't look at me like that, it hurts. In the darkness, I closed my eyes. But even with my eyes closed, my ears couldn't be shut. I won't get married, Grace, will you forgive me? Let's get back together, have a child, and then I'll marry you. You still remember, don't you? I do. You once told me you wanted to have your wedding in Provence, France, because there were thousands of acres of rose fields there, and roses symbolize love, just like us. Marcus spoke tirelessly in my ear, recounting our past, some things I had slowly forgotten. Grace, I'll do what I promised you. Trust me one more time, okay? I don't clearly remember everything Marcus said. I was too tired, I just wanted to sleep. For the next week, I was confined to Marcus's apartment. He wasn't always there, but whenever he had time, he would rush back, even if it was just to make me a simple lunch and eat with me. Perhaps seeing that I had no intention of escaping, Marcus removed my handcuffs. His apartment was on the top floor, 38 stories high. There was no way I could leave through the window, and the front door was locked with a keypad lock that I couldn't open without Marcus's fingerprint. It wasn't that I didn't want to escape, but rather that I really couldn't. Moreover, 2 of his bodyguards were guarding the door outside. That night, Marcus held me for a long time, refusing to let go, until I was so tired and annoyed that I bit him hard on the shoulder. He winced in pain and finally, reluctantly, let go, ending the prolonged torment. At times like these, Marcus would never let me shower. Instead, he liked to hold me and talk. I never managed to stay awake long enough to hear him finish. I knew Marcus's plan. He desperately wanted a child to tie me down. But I thought that perhaps letting the child miscarry would be the best revenge against this selfish and disgusting man. Yet, miraculously, there was no sign of the pregnancy ending. Marcus told me, I'll be away for a business trip for the next 3 or 4 days, not at home. I've had the freezer stocked, so you'll have to manage cooking something for yourself. He gently pinched my face, full of tenderness. Don't be angry. I'll make it up to you when I get back. I know you want to go out. Once you're pregnant, I'll let you go out. You can get back at me however you want then, and I'll take it. As I was falling asleep, I vaguely remembered today's date. Marcus and Miss Thorne's engagement day was 2 days away, and Marcus telling me he was going on a business trip at this time was self-explanatory. I silently pondered in my heart. This was a good opportunity for me, a good time to leave Marcus, as he would be away for at least 3 days. I pretended to be asleep until I heard the sound of running water. I opened my eyes, got out of bed barefoot, picked up Marcus's phone from the coffee table, and quickly made a call. This wasn't the first time I had used Marcus's phone to call Julian. Julian, are you ready? Julian didn't say much, only replied with a few simple words. Waiting for good news. With his promise, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just as I was about to hang up, I suddenly heard Julian ask again. Grace, you promised me, you'll deliver, right? I softly hummed an affirmation. Hearing the shower stop in the bathroom, I hastily hung up the phone, deleted the call record, and quickly lay back in bed. The room lights were dim. My back was to the bathroom, and I clearly heard Marcus open and close the door, then walk to the bed. The other side of the bed dipped. His body, chilled from a cold shower, slowly pressed against me from behind, pulling me into his embrace. Not asleep yet? Not tired today? Or are you just reluctant because you won't see me for a few days? When he said the last sentence, Marcus's voice held an uncontrollable excitement. I didn't know how he managed to keep deceiving himself like this. But I still wanted to sleep today, so I didn't answer his question. Instead, I opened my eyes and looked at the obvious exhaustion under his eyes, asking, "You look very tired lately. Is work busy?" Marcus smiled. "You're finally starting to care about me." He seemed to see some illusory hope and was pleased by himself. After a while, he comforted me. "Don't worry, the company just had a small problem. That mad dog Julian has been bothering me lately, but I haven't let him off easy either. It's just a bit of money lost. Even if the Hawthorne family went bankrupt, your husband could still fully support you." Although Marcus said this, his expression didn't look like it was no big deal at all. I suddenly thought of Julian's question earlier. No wonder he asked that. He was probably pained that all his efforts would be in vain. Money that could pain someone like Julian must not be a small sum. The next morning, when I woke up again, Marcus was gone. As usual, I got up and casually fried 2 eggs. Just after I finished breakfast, the door lock clicked. I was surprised. Logically, Marcus shouldn't have time to come over now. The main door opened, and the person facing me was not Marcus. 13, Miss Thorne, Marcus isn't here. You seem to have the wrong place. I looked at the woman standing at the door, dressed in a champagne Chanel suit. She had exquisitely applied makeup, with lightly curled light brown hair. She wasn't tall, but probably to match Marcus's height of 6'2", she wore heels nearly 8 inches high, her feet almost perpendicular to the ground. The other party showed no surprise upon seeing me, as if she had long known I lived there. She maintained a gentle smile on her face, closed the door, and walked in, saying to me, "Miss Grace, I'm not here for Marcus, I'm here for you." When I sat across from Miss Thorne, I had never felt such absurdity. Because her first words were, "Ms. Grace, I've always known about your existence, and your relationship with Marcus. Marcus has mentioned you to me, and I've tacitly agreed to you two continuing your relationship after our marriage. I hear you're an actress, right? As Marcus's woman, it's best not to choose such a public-facing job. I believe your contract with the entertainment company is almost up." As she spoke, she handed a contract to me, her face still wearing that smile that made me uncomfortable, saying gently, "Coincidentally, I need an assistant. Why don't you become my assistant, Miss Grace? That way, you'll be able to see Marcus often in your daily life." I knew this was Evelyn Thorne's subtle provocation. She looked at me with a full smile, confident and generous. I remained calm. Time stood still for a moment, then I finally spoke to her. "I think Miss Thorne should roughly know the income status of our profession. I'm very expensive, and I have no intention of lowering my income. My rate is $20,000 per minute, working a maximum of 8 hours a day. Overtime income is doubled, and public holidays are triple. Of course, since Miss Thorne intends to hire me, I'll give you a discount. With other benefits unchanged, my annual salary is $30 million. Evelyn Thorne's face twisted, and she couldn't utter a word for a long time. After a good while, she reminded me, "Ms. Grace, the job of an assistant is different from that of an actress, especially since work hours cannot be guaranteed." I smiled at her. "Since Miss Thorne cannot afford this price, then please feel free to leave." Evelyn Thorne bit her lower lip, picked up her bag, and turned to walk out. When she reached the door, she suddenly turned back, curling her lips into a triumphant smile at me. "Oh, right, after Marcus and I get engaged, we plan to travel to 10 Europe and countries. You probably won't see him for 2 or 3 months, but don't worry, I'll take good care of him. The Hawthorne family elders are all very much looking forward to us conceiving a baby during this time, so we can give the Hawthorne family a firstborn son and heir early. After all, only the child born from my womb will be the legitimate heir, won't it?" Listening to her string of talk about legitimate descendants, I truly wondered if this person had traveled from the Qing dynasty. "Miss Thorne, I'm very curious about what perspective you chose Marcus from. You clearly knew he and I were dating, yet you still went on blind dates and got engaged to him for this matter, and agreed to his excessive demands. Is this your taste in men?" Evelyn Thorne's face became twisted and ugly. "Grace, don't think saying these things will declare your sovereignty. So what if you were together first? The one who registers the marriage with Marcus is me, and the Hawthorne family's matriarch in their family tree will only ever be me. As for you, you're just an illegitimate mistress. Marcus is the one that got away I've dreamed of for 10 years. I've loved him for 10 years, unlike you. You've loved other men for so many years, your heart is already impure. What right do you have to love him?" I understood that there was no point talking to a woman whose thinking was trapped in a straitjacket. But I still couldn't help but remind her. The one that got away you're dreaming of and the Marcus right in front of you are not the same person at all. The one that got away should be thrown away. Miss Thorne, you're also a well-bred woman, your family is much better than mine. Is your vision limited to just one man? Is your value only to be his wife, watching him have women and children outside, then consoling yourself that you've secured the position of the main wife, assuring yourself that the child you bear is legitimate, and all others are illegitimate? Your OWN dreams, your own life, are you just living for a rotten man? I believe that every woman in this world is beautiful. They yearn for love and marriage, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they shouldn't cling desperately to a piece of rotting flesh and refuse to let go, then ferociously guard it, scaring away every passing woman who covers her nose and flees in terror, thinking they're trying to steal it. Evelyn Thorne was stunned by my words. But she quickly broke into a knowing, mocking smile. Grace, you are indeed a cunning woman. Do you think you can make me leave Marcus this way? I tell you, you're dreaming. Evelyn Thorne left in a huff. She even forgot to close the door when she left. I stood and looked at Evelyn Thorne's retreating back, sighing softly. I couldn't wake someone who was pretending to be asleep. I had said what I needed to say, whether she understood was up to Evelyn Thorne herself. Thanks to Evelyn Thorne opening the door for me, I left Marcus's apartment myself without waiting for Julian to rescue me. I had learned simple disguises from the makeup artist while on set. After a quick disguise, I easily fooled the bodyguards downstairs. As soon as I left the apartment, I found my best friend Natalie. Natalie saw me and hugged me, bursting into tears. Grace, where have you been? I kept calling you, but couldn't get through. I called the police, but they said you weren't missing, and that your boyfriend was with you. I tried to find Marcus, but I needed an appointment, and I couldn't even see him. Watching Natalie cry so profusely, I hugged her back, my eyes reddening. Thinking of the 2 weeks I had been confined by Marcus, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. And when Natalie heard that I had been missing because Marcus had kidnapped me, she clenched her fists in anger, indignantly pulling me to go to the police. I stopped Natalie. Reporting him to the police wouldn't work on someone like Marcus. It would likely be dismissed as a mere relationship dispute, and I'd only expose my location. Seeing Natalie's face flushed with anger, I comforted her. I know how to deal with him. That same afternoon, I underwent an abortion. I didn't spare the aborted child another glance. Instead, I had Natalie help me place it in a freezer. 14. The next day was Marcus and Evelyn Thorne's engagement announcement event. Meanwhile, I had already boarded a plane for Switzerland. The embryo in that insulated box, along with the evidence of Marcus's abduction of me, was delivered to their engagement announcement event and displayed publicly. For the engagement announcement event, the Hawthorne family had invited media from the entire city, and even many from out of town. Marcus and the Hawthorne family were utterly disgraced. Upon seeing the embryo in the insulated box, Marcus immediately lost his mind. That day, Julian suddenly burst into the wedding venue and fought Marcus as if his life depended on it. They fought so fiercely that no one dared to intervene. The entire engagement announcement event's decor was practically dismantled by them, and in the end, Julian still lost. Julian was sent to the hospital with 2 broken ribs. Marcus, disregarding all the guests, went to find me, only to discover my apartment was already empty. Marcus immediately checked the surveillance footage and discovered Evelyn Thorne had visited me. She hadn't closed the door when she left, and I departed shortly after. No matter how Evelyn Thorne explained herself, Marcus still didn't believe it was an accident. He was absolutely determined to call off the engagement and publicly declared before all the media that he would never marry a woman like Evelyn Thorne. Evelyn Thorne was deeply shaken, she fell ill for several months and remained secluded at home. As for Marcus, he frantically searched for me, but soon he no longer had the time, because Julian, who was in the hospital, had woken up. Before I left, I had given Julian some ing. By now, Natalie should have delivered it to him. It was evidence of the Hawthorne Group's tax evasion and illegal financial activities that I had secretly found on Marcus's phone and computer during my captivity. This included phone calls and chat logs revealing Marcus's covert stock manipulation. Although some of the information was incomplete, with these, Julian's capabilities should allow him to dig much deeper. I lived incognito in a high-end sanatorium in Switzerland for 3 months. During this time, I quietly followed the news back home. Just as I expected, Julian soon made his move against Marcus. Soft confinement, kidnapping, and sexual assault could not convict Marcus, but commercial crimes could. Men are always like this. If he had remained the Hawthorne family's eldest son, tripping up over a woman wouldn't have affected his future at all. It might even have become a badge of honor, with people privately joking, young Master Hawthorne, quite the ladies' man. But commercial crime was different. When fundamental interests were threatened, countless stakeholders would become like vultures smelling blood, eyeing the carcass, eager to carve out their share. People would add fuel to the fire, working to blow the whole thing up. After all, the Hawthorne family had held the position of the East Coast metropolis's foremost family for too long. So many people eyed that position with envy, so many had suffered injustice at the Hawthorne family's hands, and so many seethed with resentment towards them. Indeed, the investigation targeting the entire Hawthorne family nearly stripped them bare. They paid an enormous price to barely suppress it. However, Marcus had to go to prison. And the Hawthorne family had no use for an heir who had served time in prison. However, the former leading family was now merely a teetering edifice barely holding together. Everyone was looking out for themselves, who cared who inherited the now tarnished Hawthorne group? Except FO. Are the Hawthorne family themselves. 3 months later, Natalie flew to Switzerland to see me. I was doing quite well, and my body had recovered nicely. When Natalie asked if I wanted to return home, I thought about it and declined. The entertainment industry back home wasn't suitable for honing my acting skills. I wanted to go to the States' entertainment industry. 3 days after Natalie returned home, I packed my bags and boarded a plane for the States. I started as a small extra while also making time to prepare for graduate school admissions. That same year, I was accepted into Stanford. The following spring, I landed my first minor supporting role in the States. Although I didn't have many lines, I still spent over a week analyzing the character and studying the script. Although I only appeared on screen for a few minutes, the feedback was exceptionally good. I started receiving more and more roles, gradually progressing from minor supporting parts to main supporting roles. The year I graduated with my doctorate, I saw Julian at my Stanford graduation ceremony. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? As soon as we met, Julian asked me. I shrugged. Is there anything I need to explain to you? Julian smiled wryly. You're truly unrepentant. You used both Marcus and me, you made our two families antagonize each other, wearing down the Hawthorne and Julian families, and in the end, you didn't want to choose either of us. You simply wanted revenge on us. I didn't feel I had done anything wrong. I only did 1/10 of what you did to me. Can't you handle that? What's more, I never forced either of you to do anything. All of this was your choice. If you weren't willing, why did you do it? I didn't believe Julian had no selfish motives when he went after Marcus. He actually wanted to bring down the Hawthorne family himself, to get the biggest piece of the pie, didn't he? It was just a shame that in the end, that piece didn't land in Julian's hands. The Hayes family ultimately reaped the greatest benefits. That's Director Hayes's family. When I decided to get revenge on Marcus and Julian, I had already decided to partner with her. Director Hayes also used this wave to kick her useless younger brother out of the picture and take the helm of the Hayes group herself. Even her father couldn't do anything about her. As for her parents, who had a strong preference for sons over daughters, she sent them to Siberia to reunite with her brother. For years, it was Director Hayes's protection that prevented the Hawthorne family and Julian from finding me. However, since I was acting in the States, eventually they would see me. But by then, I would have the ability to protect myself. After all, my film company was now the third largest entertainment company in the States. Julian had no recourse against me and could only sigh. That's not what I meant. Now that you've gotten all the revenge you wanted, can you give me another chance to pursue you? I rejected Julian. But Julian seemed to be under a spell. He came to send flowers every day, occasionally sending expensive gifts, trying to ask me out to dinner. I turned him down every time. I was extremely busy, not only filming but also managing my film company. Moreover, I had 2 luxury brands under operation. I simply had no mind for romantic relationships. A month after seeing Julian, I saw Marcus again. The day I saw him, it was drizzling. I had just walked out of a luxury boutique I managed when I ran into Marcus, dressed in a silver pinstriped suit. He looked a bit more weathered than before, and much more composed. His previous spirited demeanor had completely vanished. Actually, Marcus only served a few months in prison. Economic cases are usually long and tedious, and just gathering and verifying evidence can take years. Deducting the time he spent in the detention center, there wasn't much left. I had expected Marcus to hate me intensely when I saw him again. But before I could even call security, I heard him say to me, "Grace, I'm sorry. I had never imagined someone as arrogant as Marcus would apologize to me." He had never been able to empathize with anyone, but now he was saying to me, I didn't realize I had hurt you so deeply. I thought you loved me too, that you were just angry for a while, and that if I just coaxed you, you would eventually get over it. It was all my fault. I was selfish, I was arrogant, I never considered your feelings, I always acted on my own. It wasn't until you manipulated Julian and me, sending me to prison, that I finally understood how much you hated me. I nodded, not denying it. Yes, I used to hate you deeply, but I don't anymore. Hating someone also requires emotional investment. Neither Marcus nor Julian was worth it. Marcus took a deep breath and cautiously asked me, I paid the price for my mistakes, so do I still have a chance? At that time, Evelyn Thorne and I had an understanding that we were only collaborating to appease our respective parents. Once you were pregnant, I would cancel my engagement with Evelyn Thorne and marry you. Then my family would definitely agree. Hearing Marcus say this, I couldn't help but find it ironic. Marcus, I thought you understood, but you still don't. Your actions hurt both Evelyn Thorne and me. You only considered yourself and never once thought about our social standing or how people would criticize us. Marcus grew anxious. I truly understand I was wrong. I've already apologized to Evelyn Thorne. She's doing very well now, married to someone who loves her deeply, and she loves him back. They even have a very cute daughter. I've done my best to make amends to everyone I've hurt. I've also started my own company, building it from scratch. I haven't taken a single penny from my family, and the company went public last year. There are no other women in my life. I genuinely like you. What I said at the club that day was just for show, I didn't Yuli mean it. I admit Julian and I made a bet about you, but I regretted it later. I simply can't live without you. I must admit, Marcus's transformation was truly gratifying, but what's past is past. I had moved on from that relationship, I no longer loved Marcus. I thought I had made things clear with Marcus. However, Marcus, just like Julian, came and waited for me every day. These two would even squabble over non-existent issues. Annoyed beyond measure, I finally lost my patience and sent them both back home. I didn't want to see either of them again. Especially not at the same time. After that day, Marcus and Julian finally disappeared from my life, and I immersed myself in my busy work once more. Director Hayes had visited me once. She told me that Marcus and Julian had both fallen out with their families over me. They were no longer young, but neither was willing to marry. She asked if I felt even a flicker of interest, saying that both men were good-looking, and perhaps I should just pick one. I smiled and shook my head. 2 more years passed, and then one day Julian came to the States to find me. This time, he came with a lawyer. Marcus had died in a car accident due to fatigue driving. Ever since I left, he had suffered from insomnia and his mental state had been poor. That morning, he was rushing back to Riverton City to sign an important contract, and something happened on the road. In his will, I was the sole heir to his entire estate. Julian told me, my will is the same. I understand his intentions. Since he entrusted me as his advocate before his death, it means he guessed you wouldn't accept. Consider it compensation for you. This was his last wish, and he hoped you would accept. After some thought, I decided to use Marcus's estate to establish a foundation dedicated to helping women who have suffered discrimination in their families of origin or persecution in their marriages. Perhaps this was the best ending. The end.